watching The Forum. I'm your host, Ashley Tate, here with my co-host, Christy Largent. And today we are speaking to a woman of many trades. She is a veteran, and she is an author of a book called Triggers. And she's also a former Army broadcast journalist. I told you I was going to mess that up. Now, anyway, her name is Sylvia Bowersox, and she is a very interesting woman we're going to dive right in today. I mean, let's start with the military. Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your military service and how you got into that.
Well, I come from a military family. My father was a career Army officer, and my mother was a supply sergeant in the Air Force.
And how'd they meet?
Lebanon, Missouri.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay,
my mother was there, and my father was there, and you know, there you go. I had struggled against the family trade for a while, and then it just was like, all right, let's do this. And I went and I raised my right hand, and I love it. Being a broadcaster is the best job in the Army.
It absolutely is. I mean, I had never even heard of broadcast journalists in the Army. I mean, I'm sure I realize they have them, but I never saw one when I was in there. So how did you get into that job? Like, well, I mean, I know you had to take the ASVAB and do all that, and then they directed you there?
Well, I told them I wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
And they said, well, how about broadcast journalist? And I said, sure.
How old were you when you went in?
Yes, I was just a little older. I was mid-20s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this wasn't like right out of high school then?
Oh, no. I went to LA first.
Okay.
And you went to college and all that because you did your schooling.
Yeah.
And then when you were in there, then did you switch over from enlisted to?
That was towards the end.
Yeah. Still.
Yeah, I got put up for a direct commission.
Wow.
And I did my board on the phone. At dark 30, I forget when it was, but it was late, and we came under attack.
In Iraq.
In Iraq.
So, yeah.
And I had to say, I'm sorry, I have to hang up now. We're under attack. I'll call you back.
Oh my goodness.
And as soon as we got the all clear, then I called them back.
So you're making it sound really cute, but I have a feeling being under attack is pretty traumatic, and I think based on your story, a lot of the Iraq time. Were you in Iraq the whole time, or where was your tour of duty, and then how did that lend to what you're kind of doing today?
Well, we got there in '03, and we were there. I was there with my unit, '03 to '04, and we got attacked just about every day, multiple times. And I have to say, you go through a period when that rocket goes over your head where your brain just goes, that couldn't possibly have just happened. Yeah. That there's just no way. And then it goes boom, you know, and it's the explosion, it's different than what you hear on movies. I can, from my memory, it sounds more like, you know, God took a big paper bag and went, you know, and that's kind of what those things sounded like, and everything in between. But yeah, but after a while, you just stop reacting.
Yeah.
It becomes the new normal.
Yeah.
It really becomes the new normal, and so you start. You know, the first time that happened, you're running for cover, and like the 27th time that happened, you're like.
Do I have to stop now?
Yeah.
Is that something that happens because you realize that they're not actually going to hit you, or do you always feel like it could potentially hit you and you're just ready for it? Like, what's going through your mind when that's happening?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know, really. I mean, getting hit was always a 50-50 proposition, and those weren't good odds.
No.
It's either it happens or it doesn't happen.
Wow.
You know, and it happened just enough to where you knew it could happen, and because you know we were in Baghdad. I mean, I because of my job, I traveled all over the country. All broadcasters did, but a lot of times you were in Baghdad, and it happened. Things blew up. You know, the rockets came across the Tigris,
and you then had to go report on that.
Well, we didn't report on that kind of news per se. We did personality features.
Okay.
And I was so fortunate. I got to travel around the country, Iraq, when I was there with the Army, and meet our amazing men and women in uniform in all the services. You know, I went to Al Assad and talked to the Marines, and you know, you went to Basra and talked to the Army, and you got to mingle with our coalition partners, and you got the sense that these people were just amazing people. Yeah, and they were patriotic and brave and hardworking, and I got to do stories on them. I mean, what a lucky person.
Yeah, what a blessing to get to highlight all those, the positive component of,
very much so.
of our military.
Exactly. I mean, yes, there are bad apples, but you know, the overwhelming people are just amazing folks.
So
go.
I was just going to say, how was your art born out of that service?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when I got back, I mean, I was there 32 months between, I mean, I did 3 different tours between the years of 2003 to 2007. I was with the Army for a tour, and then I was with the State Department as a portfolio press officer, 3161, for a tour. And then I came back working for the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction for a tour.
Okay.
And then
all doing broadcasting.
All doing some form of media. And when I got back, I had difficulties and a long struggle with PTSD and with the VA. And that struggle is going to be a struggle that I never get over. I mean, it's always there. But when I came out of it, and I had basically put my life on hold for 5 years. And when I came out of it, I wanted the world to know what it was like to be there. You know, what it felt like. What it felt like to know somebody that's dead now. What it felt like to be so freaked out and so scared and yet so protected that you reach out to people. What it felt like to not be able to sleep.
So in your book Triggers, do you use different stories?
Yes, I do.
And how, so tell us how that's kind of outlined and how you make all of that come together in this book, Triggers.
Well, at first, I went to Chico State, and I was kind of out of my mind, and I seriously, because I was still, my recovery is going to be something that's forever,
ongoing,
but I was still heavily dealing with it, and I talked to dear Professor Rob Davidson, and I said, I want to be a writer. And he says, okay, this is the place to come. And I took a class from him, and then I got into the graduate department. And it was the natural thing to do, because it was, what happened to me? What did I do?
Kind of cathartic for you in a way.
Well, at first it was just more of a definition.
Okay.
You know, this is what I did. This is what I saw. It was an extension of what I'd done in Iraq, which was highlighted. I mean, because these stories, whereas they're from a very intimate first person, they're not all my stories.
Right.
This is what I saw. These are the people I talked to, and I see a lot of the stories that come out, and they're great, but they're just telling one side. You know, they're just telling one side, and they're not necessarily getting into what it felt like for a female, for a woman, especially not an 18-year-old woman, to be in a war zone.
You're going to get to do some of your work for us in a minute. We get to cut to that in just a second, but wanted to see, what has the reaction been from other people as you share this story? I should say these stories.
Well, very, very positive. I mean, it's small. You know, it's all about the work. It's all about the people. And very, very positive. I mean, people, I get notes on my Facebook page that people say, well, I read this and it changed my life, or it changed my perspective.
Yes. But it starts out as that.
Well, that's what it is. It's like, this is what I can do.
Right.
I can't deploy anymore. I can't, you know, I mean, my PTSD keeps me down. And so I can't go out and march. It would scare me to death. But I can write and I can talk. And as long as I feel comfortable, I can work towards this. And it's just been amazingly positive.
Good. Well, I think we're about time to get to hear from you. Yay! We've been hearing from you.
No.
Like, you're going to get to hear her actually give a presentation of some of her poetry.
This piece is called 300 Miles to Baghdad, and I wrote it for my son, who, when I was deployed to Baghdad, I left. And it's also for all the other sons and daughters who had to keep the home fires burning. It's 300 miles to Baghdad. The convoy's getting rough. I'm frozen to the bone. Our call wasn't long enough. The world's such a dangerous place now. That's not good enough for you. I want to make it just a little safer. It might take a year or two. So be good for your daddy and help your grandma too. Eat your veggies, play outside, do your homework. And darling, please, always, always stay you. It was my first convoy, and the Humvee doors were gone. I was strapped in, and the frozen ends of my fingers clutched the locked and loaded semi-automatic M16A2 issued to me that day at my Army Reserve unit when I realized that this was for real and I was going to Iraq. It was my first convoy, and on this day, no matter how many briefings, and you are a go at this station, Blue Star moms, sending cards, good wishes, baby wipes, and calamine lotion, I had landed on Mars, and I didn't know who to be. It was my first convoy, and my magazine of 30 5.56 millimeter cartridges packed projectiles of lethal smiles with nicotine breath. It was my first convoy, and we blazed our courage into the void of the red dust-encrusted movie set of our sacred pilgrimage. We were ready and aiming to paintball blood through the first bad guy who came too close to our enclave, came too close to the magic ring of fire, came too close to dodge the sparks of our static electricity trigger fingers. It was my first convoy, and oppressive sandy brown, dirt black, and dingy faded colors were the only movies playing, because the sand hated anything new, hated anything shiny, hated anything that got in the way of counting the stars and waiting for God. The first time I counted the stars, my son was 6 days old. It was the 4th of July, and I wasn't afraid of fireworks yet. 3 years later, I kissed my little boy goodbye, and then the bus swallowed me, and we flew off to Iraq. The next day, we left dogs feasting on donkey meat at the Baghdad Zoo and joined the convoy to Mosul.
Wow.
That's impressive. That is bringing tears to that is
powerful.
Yes, that's a good word for that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You can tell that is heartfelt.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
fantastic
complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really does bring you along on
a picture. You're right there. Yeah. So I'm so glad you've gotten help, and that this is part of your journey, because you're really blessing all of us with your story and your message. She's got a new book coming out. You want to tell you about, Ashley?
And it's called It's My Country Too, Women's Military Stories from the American Revolution to Afghanistan. So that will be available July 2017, and you can get it on Amazon.
And for now, she's got triggers, which you'll want to go online. You can connect with Sylvia through her Facebook page, which is Sylvia Bowersox, and she is the veteran writer. So look for that page. And thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing and sharing your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. We'll be right back. We're going to have to take a break, and then we'll come back for the second half of the forum, and we look forward to seeing you in just a minute.
Hello, we are back with Processing Life Through Art, which is our theme today. And we're going to be talking with artist Michi Takemoto. Did I get that right?
You did.
All right. It's so interesting what we're going to be talking about today because you have so many things to share, and I think you guys are really going to love, I don't even know where I'm looking, but you guys are going to love what we have to talk about today. So,
and with Michi, you guys may know her as she was a family therapist here in Reading for 20 years. So you may recognize her and think like, why is she here for art? But we're so excited because after you retired, you began painting in oils just 2 years ago.
Yes.
So tell us what inspired you, what's your story? Why are you doing this?
Well, I always wanted to be a fine artist, and I went to college and to be an artist, and the art teacher told me that I really didn't have any business being an art.
which is great.
So it just crushed me. It was my lifelong dream. So, you know, I just thought, well, what else could I do? And I really loved helping people, so I got into social work and made that my career for 30 years in Reading. Actually, I did private practice, and when I retired, it was interesting that I still wanted to do art, and I was kind of doing art off and on with artist friends, but I met a gal that I had known for 20 years, and she said, you know, I'm taking an art oil painting class. Why don't you come? And I said, I think I will. And so I just kind of bopped in, and I just loved it. I just fell in love with art, and that was 2 years ago.
And you already had your passion with art, but it kind of reignited that.
It reignited it, certainly.
So what is your art depicting? Like, what is your purpose in your art now? Because you have a, tell us what your purpose is.
Well, I've done a series, which is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I just didn't know how to express it until I started doing oil painting. And that was about the Japanese internment camps during World War II. And a friend of mine, Joan Pahanik, she's also an artist, she said, you know, maybe this is the medium you need to express that. So I said, well, you know, I'm not really, I mean, I've only been doing this for a year at this time. And she said, just try. And it just poured out of me. And I just loved it. And I started researching all of the photos in the National Archives during that time, and there's so many, many images, and just started painting. So that's
Why
how
are you particularly interested in that?
Well, another thing that I started to think about was that I'm third generation Japanese American, and really the last generation to really be personally affected in a way during that time of the internment. My grandparents are dying and whatever, and so it's getting to be a situation where I wanted to keep this part of history alive, either for people that don't know about it to experience it and to understand that this really did happen to people who were innocent. And for those that knew about it, to kind of keep that in mind and remember it all the time.
And you personally are connected with that. How?
Well, I was born in a camp during the war in Topaz, Utah, Camp Topaz, Utah. And of course, I don't remember anything about it, but being born there and being, you know, right there, I mean, is part of my story and my parents' story and my brother's story. And I do have one painting of my a family portrait, well, well, cameras are contraband in the camps, but they were able to get one picture of themselves sitting on the stoop in front of their barrack, and I did paint that picture.
That's fantastic.
And, yeah, so it's very personal to me.
So is this something you heard about growing up? Did your folks talk about it? Did you discuss what that was like, being in an internment camp?
You know, I tried to talk with my parents about it, but they really just didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to forget it and just become assimilated into the American culture, be very, you know, don't show any of difference.
Right. Well, and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only imagine that that's what was kind of pushed down their throats
even
during
third
that time.
generation, they were second generation Americans. They were as American as all of us.
Yeah.
Right. But they were in
looked
that
different.
But they were in that camp too, and I think that's part of the message that they were trying to send with that camp at that time.
Yeah.
And what's the message that you're trying to send with your art? Because you do have a pretty powerful message.
Well, I just, you know, this happened once in our country. I really hope that through just the memory of this, that it won't happen anymore. That people aren't forced out of fear to turn into hatred, and usually hatred toward a particular population, or particular race, or whatever. And sometimes the climate kind of pushes you in that direction, and it really worries me, you know.
No, and I think you're choosing a powerful way to do that.
I'm hoping so.
You are. You're using your own experience and your own history to highlight that.
I'm hoping so.
And it's a good time.
In a positive way.
Yes, and it's a good time to be doing that.
Yeah,
with what's going on in our
It's not like I want to show this is what our history has done, and aren't we bad people? It's not that at all. It's that it did happen, and I do want people to understand. Let's not have this happen anymore.
That's right. And that's the message.
Well, and some people help us remember through books.
Yes.
And some people help us remember through music, and you're helping us remember through art.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful, because then the viewer takes it with their own lens.
Yeah.
And then assimilates your message into their life journey. That's what great art does, right? Whether it's a book or music or a picture. So you mentioned the oils. What other mediums do you work in?
Well, I've done a lot of collage and mixed media and encaustics, which is working with hot wax.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, I've experimented with all kinds of things. And it's funny, I did that for 20 plus years and never did oil painting until 2 years ago, and now it's my love.
That is the most amazing thing about you, is that you stepped out and you did something that you have put away for 50 years. 50 years. You guys can't. I am not going to say your age, but you guys would not believe her age. She looks amazing. But the thing is that you picked up something later in your life, when a lot of people would say, "Oh, you know what? Those days are over."
Too late.
I know.
Yep. And it's never too late. And I think you're a great example of that.
It's a real inspiration, because, and we were talking about this before we started filming, just how so often we listen to other people's comment, whether it's you have no business being in this art class, or well, what makes you think you can do that? And we let that color the way that we live our life. And there's no age that is too late to make a change, to do what you really want to do. And really, I look at it as, think of all the people whose lives you're blessing because of what you're doing right now. And you know,
and blessing her own.
Blessing her own, and you're affecting a lot of people in a really positive way. Well, and had you not started, we would have missed out on that.
I impart that on my kids, that, you know, this happened to me, and one person shouldn't have that much power to change your life and your dreams, and hopefully they got that and they're running with it.
That's right.
You know, I want that to be a part of, you know, what my message is to other people too.
So what other subjects do you paint? You meant, obviously, the internment camps are a big part of it.
Yeah, right now that's the biggie.
So how many paintings do you do per year? Like how much, I don't know anything about art.
Okay.
So how quickly are these projects developed? Like, does it take a creative process that you go through? What happens?
You know, sometimes I can sit and do a painting for 3 hours and it'll be done.
Wow.
sometimes it takes me 3 months to do a painting. It all depends on the subject, and sometimes you get it and it just feels right and it kind of almost paints itself. And other times you have to really work at it. So I don't know, I've done just 2 years of oil painting, and I probably have about 50 paintings. That's about it. Yeah.
So you did a show that you had, what'd you say, 5 buses worth of people? Tell us about that.
The Methodist Church here in Reading wanted me to display my art, and then there were 5 buses of Japanese Americans who wanted to come up and do the journey to Tule Lake. And so there were 250 people that came, and they were just so impressed, and I was so happy to see their tears, and they're holding my hands and kissing my hand, and you know, that's the best compliment that an artist can have.
Where did they come from? Bay Area?
All over California, and I think in Oregon.
Wow. And your exhibition was part of that Tule Lake tour.
Yes, it was really
fantastic. Here in Reading?
Yeah.
Was it, okay, and then they just kept going up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They had lunch and then they saw the paintings, and then they left. It was like one step and they were gone.
That's fantastic.
Do you have a place where you have your paintings, or people can purchase them, or they can see them?
I have a website.
Oh, okay.
So it's
what is it?
It's www.Michi Takemoto.
Oh, your name.
You know, yeah, that's it. Yeah. And you can go on there, and there's 3 sections. There's one for the internment series, there's one for oil paintings, and there's one for mixed media.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When you say mixed media, what does that mean? Sorry, I don't know
mixed media is where you use whatever you want to use, and just make whatever, you know, so you can have acrylics, and you can have glass in there and everything, and it just builds up to just papers, lots of collaging.
Do you do private commissions?
I'm doing one right now because of the Methodist Church exhibit, and one man came up and asked me to do this picture, and it was a picture of his wife when she was a little girl pledging allegiance in camp. All these girls were doing that. So I'm doing that for him.
What a day we've had today. Yeah. Thank you. Processing Life Through Art. We've had 2 amazing women. Thank you so much, Michi.
Thank you.
Check out her website. It's Michi Takemoto, MICHI Takemoto. So you're going to want to look at that.com. Thank you for watching the forum. We love being with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time.